Great.
So, Phil, thank you ever so much for sparing the time ahead of your
Pleasure.
accompanying us, the Waverley Singers, on the 21st of October in the Church of St. Thomas on the Bourne, in the Puccini Missa di Gloria. And we're really looking forward to hearing you again on that occasion. I wonder, have you ever performed the work before, or are you familiar with it in other ways?
Yes, I have performed the work, but only as a singer.
Oh, don't say not only as a singer, Phil.
Sorry, I haven't performed it as an organist, but no, the singers are the most important part, of course. Yeah, I was a teenager, so I sang it down with a choral society that my parents used to sing with in Somerset. So that was my first introduction to the work. Really, actually, I suppose the only introduction. I think I've played for a few rehearsals over the years, but it's not a piece that I really know very well. So I'm really looking forward to it, and particularly to trying to get some of the orchestral sounds that Puccini obviously had in mind on the organ. So that's always a bit of a challenge, depending on the instrument that you've got. But trying to get, obviously it's a very operatic piece. And a very, wonderfully composed for the voices. I think particularly what I'm looking forward to is two of my good friends, Peter Davron and Jimmy Holliday, are the soloists. So Jimmy was in the choir of Winchester Cathedral when I was working there, and Pete Davron I've known from the Charleswood Summer School over in Northern Ireland in Armagh over the years, and wow, what a character he is. Famously known for his flamboyant taste in shirts. But I'm really looking forward to this concert. It's going to be great.
Too bad we have to cramp his style for shirts. Maybe in the rehearsal we might see it.
Oh, I'm sure he'll bring one out then.
Well, you mentioned the organ, and I'd like to come back and talk to you more about the organ later, if I may. But you've obviously done an awful lot of concerts with the Waverley Singers over the years, and you're a tremendous friend of the choir. I can't remember the number of times you've sort of dug us out of a hole when we've been sort of, maybe just needed just that little bit of subtle assistance.
Probably the other way around. But so I mean, Richard and I go back many years to the early 1980s, when we were both choristers at Westminster Abbey together, and we both had a lot more hair than we've got at the moment. He was in the year above me at the Abbey, and his father, Michael, was one of the basses in the choir at the time. So I got to know Richard and his family very well. And our careers have kind of gone in parallel. We were both then organ scholars at Cambridge at a similar sort of time. And then when I was sub-organist at Winchester Cathedral, I used to conduct a chamber choir down there called Southern Voices, and used to invite Richard to come and play for my concerts with that chamber choir. And then I guess back into 2010, when I moved down from Lichfield back down to Surrey, Richard then kindly invited me to play for the Waverleys. And well, the rest is history. We've had 13 years of great partnership. I love the choir. I've got made many friends in the choir. I always enjoy working with them. And yeah, we've had a lot of wonderful concerts over the last 13 years or so.
And in addition to accompanying us, you've also given us some wonderful virtuoso solo performances at a number of our concerts, which sort of leads me on to, I mean, you talk there about conducting, and although you're best known, I would imagine, as being a kind of, well, you are a world-renowned concert organist, but you accompany, you're prepared to accompany people like us, but you also conduct. And you also teach, Phil. I mean, how do the various bits of your portfolio fit together?
Yeah, I've yet to find that out myself, really. But yeah, I enjoy the variety. I obviously love playing the organ and performing on that, and I suppose that's really where my heart is. but I love working with choirs, with local choirs like the Waverleys, and I play for a choir down in Petworth called the Leconfield Singers, and a few others locally. But I suppose my biggest choral job is with the Bach Choir in London. So I'm the accompanist for that choir, but I'm also the assistant conductor. So whenever David Hill is away, and he's a very busy chap, often goes over to the States to do the Schola Cantorum in Yale and whatever, then I will step into his shoes and conduct. And I very much enjoy that part of the job. And yes, teaching always keeps you sharp, doesn't it? People are always asking things that make you rethink the way you've done things and keep things fresh. So I teach at Cranley School, but I also teach a day a week at Eton College, and we've got some tremendous young up and coming organists there. Just a few days ago, I found out that 3 of my pupils have now just in the last week gained organ scholarships to Oxbridge. So it's lovely to work with people like that and push them forward in their careers.
Terrific. I mean, that's a great, well done. That's a terrific achievement. And yes, I mean, it must be really, really rewarding to work with young musicians like that and see their careers develop. And as you say, you and Richard have got sort of quite parallel careers, because he's at the Guildhall. He conducts and still plays the organ a lot with BBC, and piano as well, actually, with the BBC Singers. So you have both had a sort of remarkably similar career trajectory.
Very similar. But I love working with Richard. His programming is always so interesting. He mixes good old chestnuts that we all love with pieces that I've never come across, and so it's wonderful to work with him, and someone who he's so at home on the piano and the organ. I love when he accompanies the singers in their solo spots in the concerts. He's just got such a wonderful touch. It's a joy to work with him and with the Waverleys.
So I have to say this, Phil, talking of pieces you've never heard of, I had a look on your website at your repertoire, and there's a whole load of composers there that I've certainly never heard of. And then there's this chap, Bach JS, and it just says complete organ works.
Well, there's a story behind that, because back in when was it? The year 2000 must have been. To celebrate his the 250th anniversary of his death, I played the complete works of Bach in Winchester Cathedral in the space of 24 hours. So it was called a Bachathon, obviously, and was to raise money for cancer research. But I think if you play everything, all of the pieces back to back, it lasts about 22.5 hours or something. So I carved up everything and put it into 24 programs, little mini recital programs of about 55 minutes each, and I had a sort of 5-minute gap in between each, during which time my wife came with honey and mead and anything and sort of just gave me stuff just to keep me going. But I'll tell you the thing that I remember most was I finished off with one of the crowning glories of Bach's organ works, the St. Anne Fugue in E flat major, and I remember playing this, and I was sort of physically just so tired, and I remember looking down and seeing these fingers doing something, and I kind of vaguely hoped they were playing the right notes, but even though I was so physically tired, the music, Bach just fires you up in such a way. It's such perfect music, that I just said, well, I think I could do all that again. Let's do another 24 hours, which I didn't, of course. But that's the power of Bach's music. It's even when you're exhausted, you're sort of fired up inside.
Well, good for you. That's an incredible achievement, I must say. Have you? I mean, I've seen there are videos of you on YouTube giving sort of concerts in Southeast Asia, East Asia. Have you got any other sort of big projects lined up at the moment, traveling or at home?
The Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a busy year. Just a couple of months ago, I was fortunate enough to play the Poulenc organ concerto with the Philharmonia Orchestra in the Royal Festival Hall, which was just a delight. I remember growing up listening to the Poulenc concerto with Simon Preston in the festival hall. He was Richard and my choir master at Westminster Abbey, so it was lovely to play that piece that I had grown up listening to his recording on that same organ. But yeah, we've got some wonderful things coming up with the Bach Choir this year. Brahms Requiem, a piece, a little known piece, but one which I think will become much better known, by a female American composer, Amy Beach, called The Canticle of the Sun. A wonderful piece in Brahms style, Brahmsian sort of Germanic harmonic style. And yeah, we've got, what else have we got? We've got the annual Sir Matthew Passion coming up. We've got Gerontius, a lot of wonderful choral music to do there. I'm very much hoping this awful war with Russia and Ukraine are going to finish soon, because before that, for the sort of 8 or 9 years before the war started, I was going over to do 2 or 3 annual concerts over in Moscow, sort of organ gala concerts with an orchestra and choir. For obvious reasons, the pause button has gone on with that, but I'm hoping that at some stage that will come back, because that's always a joy to do. But yeah, it's going to be quite a busy year, I think, one way or another.
You are going to be busy. I mean, that's terribly sad about the Moscow concerts. I mean,
yeah,
the sort of ghastly human suffering of the war. It's a reminder that, you know, cultural exchange and music being sort of, you know, ideologically neutral and just something for everybody, a common language.
Yeah,
it suffers as well. It's terribly sad.
I tell you what. So obviously we all suffered with COVID and all the lockdowns, but in the middle, between 2 of the lockdowns, I was able to go back to Moscow, obviously before the war started. And I just remember, I mean, it was a nightmare getting in and out because of all the medical things you had to do and certificates and tests and all of that kind of thing. But I remember we did the concert, and as I went to bow at the front of the stage, one of the audience members just came up and shook my hand, and he said, "You've no idea what this means to us to actually come and listen to real live music making again." And so, you know, we felt the same in this country. I remember with the Waverleys, the first time we were able to get back, and we did that recording of Christmas carols, and it was just like, wow, we've missed this so much.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
And there's that sort of legendary occasion when Rostropovich was playing at the, I think it was the Proms, it was certainly in the Albert Hall, you know, playing the Dvorak cello concerto with the USSR State Symphony Orchestra the day that the Soviet Union invaded Czechoslovakia, and that started off being booed and ended up in tears, and so were all the audience. I mean, it's just another illustration, isn't it, of the sort of tremendous power of music to bring people together.
Absolutely.
Phil, just to finish off, I'd love to ask you about what it's like to sort of play lots of different organs. I mean, if you're a cellist or I don't know, a trumpeter, you've got your own personal instrument that you carry around with you. And if you're a concert pianist, you know, you can't do that, but you can presumably ask to play on a Steinway or a Bechstein or whatever it is you feel most comfortable with. And if you're an organist in residence, again, you know, you have your own organ that you're used to. But when you sort of turn up for concerts with the Waverley Singers or anybody else, you know, you're confronted with something which you may or may not ever have played on before. I mean, that must be a very interesting voyage of discovery.
It certainly is, and it keeps you on your toes. Sometimes you turn up and it's like, wow, this is a real nice instrument. And other times it's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with this? I always think of Forrest Gump, and you know, life is like a box of chocolates. You never quite know what you're going to get, and that's to a certain extent what it's like with organs. I mean, you can learn a certain amount about what you're going to be faced with from looking at the specification of an organ, but it only tells you so much. you know, if it says flute or if it says oboe or something, well, every organ, the flute sound is different, the oboe sound is different. So you can go with a certain idea, but it takes a little while to, you know, get to know what an organ can do well, which stops really work well, which don't. But besides the actual creating the right kind of sounds, you know, the touch is very different for each organ. Sometimes you get these really heavy, old actions that by the end of the concert you feel like, you know, your arms are going to drop off, or a very light touch where you hardly breathe and the sound goes down. And then you've got to deal, of course, with, you know, how am I going to see the conductor? Is there a, you know, because often the organ is hidden away in some corner, often with curtains around it for some strange reason. There's something magical or strange is going on. I've never quite understood that. But you know, is there a little video and a camera and a screen, or is there a mirror? Or often there's nothing. You just have to do what you can. And then, of course, you've got the acoustic of the building to play with. What kind of acoustic is it? And do you need to play ahead of the beats in order for the sound to to reach the choir and the audience at the right time? Yeah, there's a lot of things to juggle. And yeah, that's what I love about it. It just keeps, you know, every concert's different, and you just you know, do the best you can in that particular situation.
Well, it's always extremely impressive to see you in action, I must say. And I suppose the one consolation of coming to perform with the Waverley Singers is that you know that Richard is never going to choose a church where the organ isn't up to snuff, because you'd never forgive him.
Absolutely right. Yes. Yeah. No, I can trust that.
Well, let's hope that there are no surprises on the 21st of October. I mean, I know you've played in that St. Thomas on the Bourne before, and it's a lovely organ and a lovely church, and we're all hoping for a lovely concert. And thank you very much, Phil. I really appreciate your time, and it's been really good fun talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all very soon.